Why pay the regular price when you can save money on every purchase with WagerBucks at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo? WagerBucks are now eligible for use on not just daily, 3-day, and 7-day passes, but all long-term and seasonal packages up to 1 full year. There are tons of options available for every budget and size of bettor. From low as $100 gets $110, all the way up to $2,500 gets you $3,000. Save every day on every pick you buy with WagerBucks.
Welcome in, guys, and happy Tuesday to you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Puck Time right here on WagerTalk TV. I am Andrew McInnis, and I have Carmine and Bianco with me and Mr. Don Buster in his usual Tuesday spot. Carmine, we have 4 games we are breaking down today. I'll just start with your thoughts on yesterday's games and how your night was.
The night was good. NHL overall, another very good night. 3-1 overall, including the New York Islanders. I know you guys love when I take the New York Islanders in there, so we're going to talk about them today again. Really only one clunker on the card. The LA Kings just did not show up. Hurdle 4 goals in that game, 3 in the first period. And that one was over quick, but I'm glad the other 3 won, including the over in the Montreal game. It was pond hockey for the most part, and a exciting game for the tank wars, as they call it, Andrew. But I'm happy it was a profitable day overall, and looking forward to discussing 4 games with one of my favorite men south of the border, Don Buster. Buster, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm can't complain. I actually saw a little bit of video of what you guys are doing there in Canada, and yeah, I can't complain at all. I got nice weather here, and I'm not fighting any snow. Just as we planned 5 years ago. Why I don't want to be in Canada this time of year. So had a rough night last night. Lost another overtime hockey game. I don't know. Haven't hit one this year. 0 for 3 in overtime 2022, and you know my record last part of 2021. So not getting it. But then again, hey, you know, can't win them all, I guess. But I'd like to win some of these overtime ones. Geez, that's something. But besides that, yeah, looking forward to talking about a few hockey games.
Yeah, Buster, listen, you've got the beautiful weather there. North of the border, we had a huge snowstorm here, 40 to 60 centimeters. If you guys don't know what that is, that's the equivalent of about 23 inches. So we had 2 feet of snow. I have a long driveway. It took 2 hours to clean that driveway yesterday. As I stood there with my iPhone, videotaping my wife shoveling the snow, I couldn't help but think that she might need some help. But 2 hours later, it was shoveled. I came in, watched some NHL hockey, and enjoyed the day. Andrew, take us into the first game.
I like that one, Carm. I like that one. You were just figuring out what was on tap for dinner. You were just scanning the phone and doing your stuff on social media, and maybe she did need a hand eventually, but I like that one. Today's games we were discussing, we got the Hurricanes and the Bruins, the Islanders and the Flyers. Unfortunately, we have to talk about the Canadiens and the Dallas Stars. And last but not least, the Florida Panthers and the Calgary Flames. And Carm, let's start things off with our very first game we're going to discuss with the Bruins and the Hurricanes going head-to-head at TD Garden here. This Boston Bruins team has won 5 straight, and Tuukka Rask is between the pipes tonight. I believe we'll also see Freddie Anderson for the Carolina Hurricanes. As we all know, he is the key for them. He is having an outstanding season. Carolina plus 115 on the road, Boston minus 135. Total is at 5.5 here. You look at this Carolina Hurricanes team. As far as they go, look, they had a bunch of wins in a row. They dropped 2, and then they rebound with a 4-1 victory over the Vancouver Canucks here. Obviously, a marquee matchup in this division. What are your thoughts here, Carmen, this battle?
Yeah, it's I'm eventually going to look at the total here, but it's like you mentioned, Tuukka Rask in goal for the Bruins. This will be his second start. He started last Thursday, beating the Flyers 3-2 in that game. And this Bruins team both these teams are hot. I love talking about teams when we're talking about teams that are winning a ton of games as opposed to Arizona and Montreal. But with that in mind, the Bruins are playing hot. They're using those games that they had in hand that we discussed on last week's show, and they are winning these games to move up the standings. while I talked about, and we're going to talk about the New York Islanders later, about them having to put together an insane run to get into one of those spots. It's just not going to happen. I'm looking at these top 8 teams in the East, and I don't see how any of them are going to drop off. I think the Bruins make the playoffs. These two teams are playing extremely well, and Freddie Anderson, 19-6. He came off that loss, a bad one, where they lost at home to Columbus. They just mailed in the points there, losing 6-0 at home, and he rebounded with a very good 4-1 win over the Vancouver Canucks, and he's 8-1 his last 9 starts. When you get two very good teams like this and two very good defensive teams, I can't look at an over, and this is why the total is 5.5. You've got to look at the under. These teams played back in Carolina earlier this season, which was last year in October, and that was a 3-0 game for Carolina. I'm looking for a similar low-scoring game, one of those 3-1 type games. I'm leaning under here. I'm not even going to bother looking or trying to guess which side is the right one here. Maybe Buster can find us one. Buster?
Well, I don't think I can find one here. I will give you a few things to think about. How about that as far as the side goes? I actually fully believe the odds makers nailed this game right on with the line here, with Boston being 135 and Carolina getting plus 115, I believe, total 5.5. Boston's been really good out of the COVID break. They've won 8 out of 9. Carolina's won 4-2 with an overtime loss there. So as you mentioned, Rask gets his second start. Kind of unique story, just him coming back, but that's for another day. Got to face Philadelphia the first time. Now he's facing Carolina. That's a little bit of a different beast he's going to be facing tonight. So that could play in Carolina's favor. Who knows? I don't know if it's the old Rask already in the second game. I wouldn't think so. Problem for Carolina, they're catching the Bruins playing their best hockey. No doubt about it. They look really good. They're even scoring goals, looking really good. Also, and I've mentioned this here a bunch of times, and I'll mention it at the end before I send it back to Andrew. Carolina has trouble in Boston, historically. They're 8-20, last 28 in Boston. That's not good. As Carmine mentioned, Carolina did beat Boston 3-0. Going to the total here, 4 of the last 5 went under with these guys. Under definitely is the only way I could play this, but these two teams can score a lot of goals, so under would be the only way. I just want to mention here about last week, when I mentioned these historic things, I mentioned last week 2 or 3 other ones, but every one, I think I've done 4 or 5 this year, and every time that team has won the game. Last week, I mentioned how Chicago in Columbus was 21 out of 27 or 28 games. They won as well. So going on that, if you believe in anything like that, you know what? Boston's a play here because Carolina's had trouble, and I'm mentioning it. So there you go. I'll give you a little side there.
It is nice to hear that stuff, Buster. And we talked about on the show last week about how sometimes you might not believe in these long-term things, but if they're such a great percentage like the one you read last week, sometimes you just can't ignore it. And obviously it was successful for you. Guys, I will jump in with a side in this game. And Carm, we discussed in the show yesterday, buddy, about jumping in front of a streak. And I'm going to do it tonight with the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm going to take them at plus price, plus 115. Tuukka Rask, Buster mentioned it's a very interesting story for him. But to me, I think the bottom line is he's playing a Carolina Hurricanes team after defeating a Philadelphia Flyers team in his first game out and back as the Boston Bruin. And you got to understand that this guy was, ready to go. He was excited playing at home. He'll be playing at home again. The players wanted to play well for him. They seemed super excited to have him back. I feel like the only reason he's really back is for the team, not for money, not for the fans, not for anything else, to go win with the team. And I'm not so sure that he'll be able to handle this upgrade right now for a Carolina Hurricanes team ready to go on a run again. And I look at, the Montreal victory for Boston, the Philadelphia victory. Brad Marchand and that top line are doing really well right now for them, for Boston. Curtis Lazar. But you look at the injury report. You've got Connor Clifton. He's questionable. We've got Matt Grzelcyk. He's out. Nick Foligno. He's questionable. some of the depth pieces are out. And, I always talk about that perfection line they call it for the Boston Bruins. I feel like as much as I'm happy to see Brad Marchand doing well and Patrice Bergeron and Pasta and those guys. I'm starting to worry that maybe those guys are being relied on a little bit too much. The depth is showing, but to me, Carolina, one of the reasons why I put a future out on them guys is because they have one of the best, 4 lines in the league. And I feel like they're going to get it done. So you're giving me plus 115. I know that it's tough to play in the Garden in general. And like Buster said, Carolina has had a tough time in the Garden against the Boston Bruins. But I'm going to take the underdog here. And I will say a lot of it has to do with the second game for Tuukka Rask. So, Carm, I don't always love jumping in front of these streaks. But this is a time where I'm going to do it here at the plus price for the Carolina Hurricanes, man. I think I'm going to do it tonight.
Andrew, I love it. While I'm not taking a side, I love the idea of if you're jumping in front of a streak, you're getting plus money doing it. And I did it with the Dallas Stars at home, and we're going to be discussing that a little later in the show. But it's the right time to do it, and I get it with the when you look at Tuukka Rask and you look at the 2 goalies. These are 2 teams that are you would say evenly matched, and they're playing extremely well. It's slim margins in a game. It's mistakes that are the undoing. And who's likely to make a mistake? If you're looking at the goalies, I'm more inclined to think it's going to be Tuukka Rask than Freddie Anderson, just the way the team is playing in front of them. So good luck to you on that plus money play tonight.
I appreciate it. So those 2 guys looking towards the under. I'm looking at the underdog tonight with Carolina. And Buster, I'm going to go to you first with our next game up here. We have the Philadelphia Flyers hosting the New York Islanders. They're plus 110 at home. We got the Islanders minus 130 on the road. Total's at 5.5. And Buster, I kind of think the Islanders are a buy team right now, a team to look to bet on over their next several games. We got a mixed bag of the schedule, some lighter games and some tougher games. But after all they've dealt with injuries, with COVID, with a 13-game road trip to start their season off, I feel like they get going. Do you agree?
Well, there's no doubt they could get going. What they have to do is they need to start winning on the road. These guys played last night, and nice 4-1 victory for the Islanders. Philadelphia didn't play all that bad, though. The Islanders have owned Philly, won the last 6 games. Big problem, I just mentioned it. Islanders on the road, 1-6 last 7, and on back-to-backs, they're 0-4. So that could be a problem. To your question, Andrew, about moving forward, yes, I like the Islanders team. I always love Trotz. I've said on here many a times the guy's a fantastic coach. So if anybody can get these guys in the right direction, they can. Now they are playing in Philly tonight. Philly, as we all know, is a train wreck. Lost 8 straight games, not sure. They do have a bunch of talent there. And they actually didn't play. I watched the game last night. They didn't play all that bad last night, really. If you look at it, Sorokin made it I believe it's 2 saves on breakaways even. And they didn't have a lot of shots, but they had a lot of good chances. There's no Sorokin tonight. So not to say that I'm going to ever play Philadelphia, but I would caution playing the Islanders. It's just one of those things that you've seen for myself in all these years. It's just back-to-back, and, Philadelphia needs a win. It's a spot that you might want to play Philly, but I'm not playing the side. I will play the under. Now, I know the last 3 weeks I've been sitting here giving everybody nothing but overs, and here we go the first 2 games, it's 2 unders, but these guys are dead unders, aren't they? Anytime they play. Philadelphia can't score. I don't think they've scored more than 2 goals in I don't know how long. And Hart's in net tonight, right? So he's going to be a little bit better than Marty Jones, and he can make a lot of good saves. Yeah, like I say, I have a feeling Philadelphia might be the play here on a lean, but I want really no part of a team that can't score and hasn't won in 8 games. So give me the under. That's the play.
An under from Buster. It's interesting you talk about that from what was going on last week when it was over. And we talked in the show about the odds makers adjusting the numbers, Buster, from the 5.5s up to 6 and the 6s up to 6.5s and even starting to see a few 7s. And usually when that starts to happen, you start seeing the low scoring games just pop up the second they move those numbers. Have you been jumping on more unders recently because of that?
Truthfully, I have not. I've been just playing overs. What I have been doing is staying away from certain games when they've hit 6.5. Games that I would normally play over 6. I've been staying away from those. But the pond hockey era is starting to slowly go away. You saw last Thursday, I think the unders went 1-9-1. Saturday, I think it was about even the road. So it's starting to, the teams that play unders are going to be playing unders, and I think the teams that are playing overs will be playing overs. There's a lot of teams that put the puck in the net, and for me though, I've been trying to stay away from these unders, but sometimes they stick right out, like these first 2 games seem to.
And nobody likes betting a 6.5, so I got to give credit to Carm. I also agree with you, and I do this as well with the full game and first period over, but that Colorado game yesterday afternoon, you advised people to look towards the in-game over. We had a few people comment to us. They got it at 5.5, so that was great stuff, Carm. It's really funny being on a show in the morning recommending a live wager. We were able to do that, though, and it ended up happening. The Islanders are playing, Carmen. Our audience has almost made it out to be like, this is your favorite team. So I haven't really noticed the jokes until right now yesterday when I was looking at the YouTube comments and the live chat. They think you love the Islanders, man. What's your play today?
No, I love any team that is going to make me money, and you get with teams that are in good spots or going to be on good runs, and you go with it until they prove you wrong. You know, these teams played yesterday, of course, 4-1 final score. If you watched the game, the Philadelphia goal was probably one of the luckiest goals. The guy he fired it. It was going to go into the corner, goes off an Islander player, and then back towards the net and goes over Sorokin's shoulder and into the net. It's a fluke goal, and that's the only goal they scored in that game. This is a team that they got that initial burst when they made the coaching change with Yeo taking over, going 5-2. But they've gone 0-6-2. They've lost 8 games since. Because the same problems exist with this team. They don't play well defensively. They don't score a lot of the times. They're just struggling, and it's a lost season for them. The Isles still harbor a little bit of hope that they're going to make the playoffs, and I did until the Bruins went on this streak. But they would have to play well above their heads at like 800 hockey and hope for the other teams in front of them to stumble. They're likely going to finish in the 9th spot, which does not get them into the playoffs. But these are 2 teams going in opposite directions. The Flyers 0-8, the Islanders 5-1-1 in their last 7. And I know Buster mentioned the road woes for the Islanders, but you have to remember they started their first 13 games on the road and really tanked it at the end, losing their last 4 games on the road trip. Came home, massive COVID problems and injuries on this team. They played 3 games with those injuries and COVID problems and gone 1-1-1 during that time. They're starting to win games. It's too little too late, but we can still make money off of them, and it's minus 123. So give me the Islanders minus 121, 125 to win tonight in Philadelphia.
All right, Carmen, looking towards the Islanders. And Carmen, it's a good price, like you said. I mean, how could we not take this again here with the New York Islanders? I mentioned they're a buy team moving forward, especially if we're going to continue to get these prices, not even have to bet the regulation or puck line. Just take this team straight up. It's hard to argue with an Islanders bet tonight over the Philadelphia Flyers. Guys, I received a message this morning from our customer service team that our promo code NET299 has actually been extended once again. You guys are loving this promo code. A lot of you guys are taking advantage of it, writing into us at support@wagertalk.com, asking if that is still alive. So that is available for every handicapper across the websites over at wagertalk.com. You can use that promo code NET299. If you want to use that for Buster, make sure you email in as well. Support@sportsmemo.com. You'll be able to use that for him as well. NET299. Get the entire season plus playoffs for $299. All right, Carm, you put this game on the list. We have to talk about it. Our next game up, I don't even want to do it. Mainly, actually, because I ended up placing a wager on the Canadiens yesterday, and that was a rough one. The Montreal Canadiens versus the Dallas Stars. Dallas are at home. They are minus 340. Montreal plus 270 on the road. And the total's at 5.5 in this one. I just want to start off, before I go to you, Carm, on this game, I just want to let everybody know that you've seen a lot of 5.5s with Montreal Canadian games. And that usually means that each team has 2.5 as their team total. Sometimes that favorite, like tonight, would be really juiced over 2.5, so you can look at the 3.5. But a lot of times, you're still going to get 2.5. I want to take a look at a lot of these games for you guys that Montreal is losing and how many goals they're giving up. You look at the loss against St. Louis, 4 goals. Pittsburgh, 5 goals. Tampa Bay, 5 goals. Carolina, 4 goals. Florida, 5 goals. Boston, 5 goals. Arizona, 5 goals. I always try and preach this. Buster always tries to preach it. Carm tries to preach it as well to avoid these big numbers. With the way that the betting world is advancing, there is absolutely no need to bet a minus 340 tonight. Look, we can all come on here and joke around about how bad the Canadiens are. Yesterday, if anything, they improved because they're probably going to get a better draft pick because of that loss. And Buster and I, we're not happy about our season from our favorite team. But I will say, from a betting standpoint, guys, if you're looking to bet against this Montreal Canadiens team, you should probably be taking a look at the team total. And you can get that 2.5. You can get that 3.5 tonight at pretty good plus money. And I would recommend that for the Dallas Stars, So that's my 2 cents. Carmel, I'll throw it over to you. I just wanted to kind of make sure that's mentioned today on the show because these favorites are they're so highly priced. And I want to find a way to recommend a better way of playing it. Of course, there is the puck line, Carm. It's minus 130 for the Stars, but that team total is a pretty safe play lately against the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, and listen, sometimes I know Buster will harp on me for putting the Montreal Canadiens on Tuesday's card, but this had nothing to do with Montreal and everything to do with Dallas. We talked on previous shows where I told you Dallas Stars are polar opposites this season. Fantastic at home, 3rd best record in the West. They hit the road and they just can't win games. I faded them in their last 2 games on the road in regulation time. They lost 7-1, I think, to Tampa, 3-1 to Florida. They are the worst team in the West. And there's a lot of bad teams in the West, and they are the worst team in the West on the road this season. Now, variance will eventually kick in and sort of we always talk about regression to the mean. It's got to go the other way. They're going to start winning some games on the road. I don't know when, but they're at home tonight, 13-2 their last 15 games at home. And Andrew, you mentioned the team total, and that's where I'm going here. In those 13 wins, they've scored 3 or more goals in each of those. 10 of those, they've scored 4 or more goals. And the team total here is 3.5 minus 125 if you're betting the over on the Dallas Stars here. So I'm looking at the over 3.5 team total here. You got Montreal on the second half of a back-to-back going from Arizona to Dallas for this one. They're 1-4 this season in the second half of back-to-backs. And they're 1-4 because they're just not winning games. So you're expecting them to lose most of their back-to-backs. I don't see a good result here for them. I see another Dallas win and Dallas scoring at least 4 goals in this game. So I'm going to take the team total over 3.5 for Dallas. Buster.
Well, Carmine, I had a little speech that I was going to say, but I guess the producers would probably mute my mic here. Yeah, a little bit fed up, maybe sick, whatever you want to call it, about the powers that be, which is you, putting this Montreal Canadiens on all the time when I'm on Tuesdays. Like they are my favorite team. They've been my favorite team, like diehard as a fanatic. They're my only team as a fanatic, like as a real fan. Like you see all that snow you have in Toronto. When I was in my 20s, I would drive to Montreal in a snowstorm because somebody got me tickets to a game to go to the Montreal Forum. That's the kind of stuff I used to do, right? So last year, when we were going for that cup run, that was fantastic. It was great. This year, not so much. And truthfully, I know you say that I have a good perspective on Montreal, and that's why you put them on. Truthfully, buddy, we both know why. You just like to get under my skin, and we've been kumbaya. We've been kumbaya the whole year, like no problems. Everybody's happy. We're winning. We're actually winning our best bets at the end of the show. Everything's good on Tuesday. So you just, and I say, why would you put Montreal Dallas on? Because I'm going to say the same thing I say every week when you put Montreal on. Montreal have not had a good year. I don't even know if they're even trying anymore, tell you the truth. So, you know what? They've lost, 13 out of the last 14 games. They're terrible on the road. They got their third-string goaltender going. What I will say again, please, please, please do not bet Dallas minus 340. We all saw what happened just last week when everybody bet Toronto minus 320 because they couldn't lose at Arizona, could they? Well, this is the NHL, guys, and guess what? Things do happen, and like I've said here, maybe Montreal's goalie stands on his head, and they win 2-1 somehow, some way. Probably not, but again, here's a game that there's better games out there to be betting, for sure. And for you guys, you and Andrew, so proud of what you've done with this Puck Time show. You guys have this is fantastic. I love the format. You got one guy on every week. You guys come on Monday and do your little recap from the weekend, play yours, and you have a Tuesday guy, a Wednesday guy, a Thursday guy. You've made this show one of the best hockey shows on the internet. There is no doubt about that. But do yourself a favor, guys. Do not put Montreal Canadian games on Tuesday. I could give people more advice on a Winnipeg game tonight or Tampa Bay or even Ottawa, Buffalo, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? So, love you guys.
Let's hear it, Buster.
Let's
hear it.
But you know what? Please, guys, bet any other game on the slate but this one.
You know what? There's
This
passion
is like
dripping. Carm, let me just give him an opportunity. Buster, is there any other play? Because we don't want to talk about this game, you can give out to us real quick. Any other game, real quick, you want to just fire out a free pick? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Is there anything you want to just recommend besides this game?
I gave my clients last night because all these totals that I'd like to bet over, they're jumping. I missed the Florida one. It must have been about 2 a.m, so sometimes I miss things because I am a little old. But I bet Washington, Winnipeg over 5.5. Right away, I told everybody to get it now. A lot of my clients know I put out plays late at night, so hopefully they all jumped on it because I told them it's going to be 6 in the morning, and it is at 6 right now. So that was a play I gave.
Okay.
Buster, I really enjoyed your Yelp review there of the Puck Time show, and I wish you the best of luck on that total. That is actually a very good total.
Thank you.
Buster, we appreciate the kind words. Seriously, I really do appreciate that. And I can tell that you're serious. You do not want to talk about the Canadiens, and I get it. It's rough right now. Look, you're looking at a guy that drove 9 hours, Buster. I drove 9 hours just to be in the city last summer. I didn't even go inside the building. I wasn't even watching the game. I drove 9 hours just to gather some memories. And thank goodness I got those memories, Buster, because that's all I really have right now when I'm watching that team. I can't really think about anything else because it's not looking good. Back to the betting standpoint.
You know what,
ahead,
Andrew,
Buster.
you're a young guy, and I've got a couple lifetimes on you. You'll get your Montreal will somehow, some way start spending money and get that team where it should be. You know what I mean? But anyways, yes, we got to move on.
I did want to say one more point about these games, and I have to give credit to Andy Lang. Last year, we had him on the show quite a bit. And Carmel, I'll get your thoughts on this real quick before we move to the next one. But I often talk about betting on players to get points. Well, Andy would come on here and do the opposite. He would bet a player under for shots and under, for points. You can get players like Mike Hoffman under 0.5 points at like minus 110. Suzuki under a half point at minus 120. I mean, it's just an absolute, shocker right now. It for who's going to score and who's going to do anything for the Canadiens. The fact that you can get some guys on the Canadiens at a minus 110 price to not get a point, to me, is something to be kind of interesting and something to look forward to, because right now you have no idea who's going to do anything for that team. Is that anything you've ever considered betting, Carm?
Not in those, but there's some instances where maybe the shot totals, you can go to the unders and stuff. Case in point, just talking about shots in general. I commented, I was watching the not the New York, I was watching the Vegas Golden Knights and the Pittsburgh Penguins last night. And on the show, I said that I liked the Penguins in that game. At one point, Vegas was up 3-0 in that game. At the halfway point of the game, it was 3-2, and Vegas had 7 shots on goal. 30 minutes into the game, 7 shots, 3 of them went in. They ended up with 26 shots on goal. But that's a Vegas team that normally gets 40 plus shots on goal at home. So you're going to get high shot totals for their players, and I'm going to guess that a lot of those unders hit in a game like that last night against a Pittsburgh team that is very good defensively, and we talked about that yesterday as well too. So the Pens came back to win that game. I was pretty happy about that as well too, and a lot of those shot totals to the under hit.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to look at because I always talk about those overs, and I have to do a better job of that because I cashed yesterday with McKinnon on the show. There's just been guys where I've looked at their overs, but I have to do a better job of finding some unders to recommend for people. I mostly just look at these top players like McKinnon, like David Pastrnak, but there are players you can look towards the under as well. We have one more game to get to before best bets. I'm going to go to you, Carm, for your thoughts here. The Florida Panthers and the Calgary Flames. For anybody wondering kind of how this, what's going on here in Canada, it's hard to explain even for us as Canadians. We don't really get it. But the Western Conference is being a little bit more, they're having more fans, I guess, at those games, which is why the games are still going on between American teams and Canadian teams, or just games in general. So Florida's on the road taking on Calgary. They're minus 145, where Calgary is plus 125. The total is 6.5 here. Obviously Calgary needs to play better at home, but they need to play better defensively, Carm. The coaching staff has not been happy. The post-game pressers with Sutter have been absolutely hilarious. I love seeing the facial expressions he makes. He's almost like the Bill Belichick of the NHL. Makes me laugh. And I just don't really know if the Panthers are really a team that they're going to be able to correct some of their mistakes against.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that the morning skate for the Calgary Flames after that game against Ottawa wasn't one of the easiest ones, especially with Sutter. That was an absolutely flat game from them. They came off, finally returning home after being in the U.S. Their last 3 games were the toughest of the tough. They faced Florida, Tampa, and Carolina all over the course of 4 days. That's a tough schedule. They come home and face the Ottawa Senators, who had played 1 game in like 26 days, and they lose 4-1. And they were outplayed in that game. So he couldn't have been happy. This is a team that's been outscored 20-7 their last 4 games. But I'm telling you, this Calgary team isn't as bad as it would seem with that. This is a team that was close to or near the top of the Western standings for a while, and then just fell on hard times. A lot of games being postponed, COVID issues. They're going to get back on track, and this is probably why you see the number where it is, because this Florida team is absolutely hot. They're 8-1-1. They're past 10. They're playing phenomenal hockey. Sometimes, Andrew, we talk about that first game on the road when you come off a very good homestand, and they win 3-0, winning by a 21-5 margin over Columbus, Dallas, and Vancouver. And now they hit the road against Calgary. I think we're going to see some goals tonight. But here's the problem: is 6.5. I do not want to play 6.5 total. And I'm glad you mentioned that Colorado game yesterday, because my thoughts are the same on this game. I am going to wait and bet this game in game. I'm going to hope that we see no scoring in the first 3 to 4 minutes, watch this total drop to 6, and then I'm going to jump on the over in this game. So I'm not going to take a side here, even though I think Calgary is a live dog here. I'm just not getting enough against a high-scoring Panthers side. But I'm going to wait for that total to drop. Hopefully it drops to a 6, and I'm going to hit it in game. Buster?
Yeah, I have to probably agree with everything you said there, Carmine. This Florida club is, we talked about it last week. This club's like a machine. They just keep coming at you in waves and waves and waves. Like you said, I think you made a comment about 8 out of 10 or something. They've won 8 out of 9 since the COVID break, and I think that loss was in overtime to Dallas. So, problem for Florida, kind of like the problem the Islanders have. They've struggled on the road. I mean, they're 2-9 the last 11 on the road. But again, a lot of that was pre-COVID because they've only played 2 games on the road since this COVID break. Out of their 8 out of 9, they win the road game in overtime in Carolina. They lose in Dallas. So I think they're even playing better on the road now. I think they might have got that figured out. I don't know about this Calgary club. They've lost 4 straight. They haven't played since last Thursday when they lost to Ottawa 4-1. So there might be a little rust there. I actually, because Florida, I think they're 155 or 150 now. I'm going to play Florida in the first period on the money line. You can get 125 right now. It might be up to 130. I don't know as we're doing the show, but I got 125. I like them in the first period. They've been coming up flying in first periods, and got to believe Calgary's going to be a little bit rusty. I have to agree with you on that total. I will bet it over the 6.5. Probably will bet it in game. These guys played 6-2. We actually talked about. I gave this game over 2 weeks ago when it was a 6. And as Andrew has mentioned, the odds makers have adjusted for these totals. There's no doubt about that. But I don't want to really lay the 150, 155. I think the best plays, which I've already bet, are Florida first period, money line. So if something happens, you can still get the push on there. And I will take the over 6.5. And if you bet in game, over 5.5. And I just like it over.
It is hard to argue goals tonight, especially looking at this Calgary Flames team and the amount of goals, or the number of goals. I actually had somebody comment yesterday and correct my grammar, and I take pride in grammar. Not the amount of goals, the number of goals that Calgary has allowed. We see 4 goals against an Ottawa Senators team. The good news is, like you guys have discussed, there's been some time since their last game. And I think as a coaching staff collectively, I think that that's one of the best coaching staffs to have some time to adjust and make adjustments. So I would, think that there should be a better effort there, but I'm not so sure, like I said at the start, that you could have that adjustment and really correct yourselves against a team like Florida. So I'm right there with these guys on the over. I think Calgary, they have to score at least 4 goals to win this hockey game. And I mean that. I think they have to score upwards of 4 goals in order to beat the Florida Panthers. It should be a great game here on tap tonight. It's a big game for the Calgary Flames coming off against a couple games where they give up 5 goals, 6 goals, 4 goals. So they need to bounce back big time here. Let's jump into best bets. We'll start with you, Buster, with your best bet here on the show, and also what you have up for grabs for clients.
Okay, Andrew, go over to Sports Memo. Had a really good playoff weekend in the NFL. Went 6-2. We're on a 16-4 NFL run. We're seeing the NFL really well. Been doing all right in NHL, except for last night wasn't that good of a night, as I mentioned, lost in overtime. But really seeing the NHL as well. So you might want to go over to Sports Memo, grab a package. 3-day, 7-day. We'll have a golf package for the first time up this year. Tomorrow, or probably late tonight to early tomorrow morning. So getting back into the golf packages as they are starting to play real tournaments now. For my show play, going to go to a game that we haven't discussed. Going to take Vancouver first period money line when they play in Nashville. Nashville off a back-to-back. Looked really good for about 16 minutes of that game yesterday against St. Louis, and then kind of hung it up. Vancouver, tough road trip they've had here. They looked really good beating Washington on Sunday. And tonight, Rittich will be in net. No Soros, so that's a good thing for Vancouver. Although Soros has played like shit lately, so I'm not sure what's going on with him. But yeah, we like Vancouver to get the jump on Nashville off that back-to-back. And it's their first back at home, too. So, you know what I mean? They're home kissing the wife and children and, not really too much interest maybe right off the bat in this game. So Vancouver, first period, money line, plus 125. And best of luck to everyone out there today.
Love those first period plays. Vancouver first period tonight for Don Buster. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, Buster. And Carm, I have to say, I think a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, you said to me, "You're coming for me. You're heating up in the NHL," and you certainly are off another big night. Unfortunately, for me, it's been a rough couple of days, but still having a decent season. What's on tap for you and your clients tonight?
Well, I'm glad you're giving me even the slightest opportunity. I think hopefully you're not taking pity on me. But listen, it's been a great 2022 so far. 18 days in, number one in NHL for 2022. A pretty good heater, but pretty good in all sports across the board. Plus 43% bankroll gain in 2022. To kick it off. And I've got two plays up in NHL tonight, a bunch of plays in soccer as well too, and a 5% play coming up. I have a promo deal. You get a 30-day all access for $199. It's regularly $299. Use the coupon code ALL100. ALL100 will get you 30 days of NHL, NFL playoffs, soccer, Champions League's in there, and some NBA plays as well too. So all included in that 30 days, including 5% plays. I'm going to go to Andrew, a first period play as well too. I'm going to take the Ottawa Senators, minus a half a goal, plus 142. Buffalo Sabres come to town. They played a matinee game yesterday against Detroit, blew a 2-0 lead, losing 3-2. To them, Ottawa returns two big games. They did the Ottawa double, beating both Calgary and Edmonton, 4-1 and 6-4, scoring 5 goals in that third period against Edmonton. Prior to that break, where they were off for 26 days, they claimed a couple scalps at home, one in Tampa Bay, 4-0, and 1-6-5 over Colorado. So they're playing with the big boys, and they're winning. Hopefully they don't take a step back against the Sabres. Let's take Ottawa to get off to a good start, minus half a goal, plus 142 first period.
All right, Senators first period, minus a half goal. Great price there as well. Senators are rolling right now, at least scoring some goals and playing a Buffalo team second half of the back-to-back. Guys, for me, just up at WagerTalk.com, I recommend grabbing a day pass. I got some packages going up here, but the day pass is the best option right now with college basketball. I have 2 plays on the hardwood in college basketball, some NBA action, of course, some NHL, and the NFL going up for the weekend. So it's always good to grab a 7-day or a day pass because you're paying $25 for one play, or you can grab the day pass for $39. And I'm sure we all have more than just one play up for grabs for our clients. So I'm just going to recommend to you guys, grab a day pass, which a lot of you guys have been doing. That way you get every single play I'm on, not just one. I've also got some Australian Open tennis going on. And last year I was actually quietly the #1 handicapper in tennis at WagerTalk.com. Only 30 plays, but came out pretty profitable in that. My best bet for today's show, we're looking at Tampa Bay and the LA Kings over the total of 5.5. Tampa Bay had a rough go. They were not the same team we know them to be. They lost several games in a row. Now they've strung 3 wins together. We just saw San Jose beat down LA yesterday. They're playing the second half of a back-to-back now. I don't really think LA can correct their defensive errors against a team like Tampa Bay coming to town. And I don't really think we should have a 5.5 as this total either. So over 5.5 for me with Tampa Bay and LA. Carmine, his best bet is Ottawa first period, minus a half goal at plus 142. We have Don Buster with Vancouver first period money line, plus 125. That will do it for our Tuesday show. Make sure you guys check out the $2 handicappers at both websites today. It is $2 Tuesday. On behalf of Carmine, Don Buster, I'm Andrew, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers, best bet, or daily package for only $2.